Welcome back to the Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where one of the hosts use a burner called Cooper Pup. Who could it be? It's not me. It's the other host. That's Lenny. I am joined today by a skeptical. He did not really react as I hoped to that one.
I first I didn't understand burner, and then I realized it was a social account, and now I'm there.
Okay, Cooper Pup. Cooper Pup would be a good name for a dog, by the way. If any Rams fans are listening to this.
That is a good name.
I had the Rams on my mind because we have what is another good Thursday night game, crazily enough, between the Rams and the Niners. As always, Ben and I will be discussing every game, this time week 15. Feels like yet another week where all of the good games are kind of backloaded. This morning slate on Sunday is pretty brutal. There's some... Let's say there's a lot of games where only one of us will be discussing them, Ben, but that's not the case with Rams Niners. It's kind of a weird one though, because it doesn't have quite the playoff implications you think, really. Like the NFC West is obviously a shall we say a moving situation. I think most likely, regardless of what happens between the Seahawks and the Rams, it looks like it's probably going to come down to week 18 for all the marbles. Though if the Niners were to pull this off, Seahawks get a little bit of breathing room as they head into a pretty difficult stretch against the NFC North.
Yeah, and it's worth remarking, right? Sean McVay's won the last two of these games, but before that, it was 9-1. Shanny to McVay, the only win being that critical playoff game a few years back. And then you look back at the game that they played earlier this year. Niners had a 97% win probability with 5 minutes left, and then all of a sudden, right, it ends up being a Rams victory, some bad, late game mistakes and a missed Jake Moody field goal and some penalties and yada, yada, whatever. And so this is, the Rams are the hotter team right off the big win of the Bills, but this is in San Francisco. The Niners are favored.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah, this can get squirrely for sure.
The Niners or the Rams probably are the hotter team, having just beaten the Bills. Mm-hmm. However, the Niners offense, hilariously, after losing everyone, is coming off of their best offensive performance of the season. I haven't looked it up in terms of EPA per play, but at one point I saw the screenshot going around. They were outgaining the Bears 200 to 3 or yards.
If that wasn't their best offensive performance of the season, I don't know what was. They had everything they wanted against Chicago.
Okay, so I'll start here first because I'm discussing focused on the home team, who's San Francisco. This is going to sound dumb, but I wrote, hey, everything you did in the Bears game, just do that again. But which then sounds very basic, but I actually mean it in a more detailed fashion, which is I think a lot of the things they had success with against Chicago are the sort of concepts that work against this Rams defense, particularly some of the stuff they were hitting off of play action. I mean, Brock Purdy went 4 for 6 on 20-yard plus passes in this game for 118 yards. Coming into that last week, he had attempted just 28 deep passes, which ranks 26 in the NFL. Now, a lot of that has to do with Brandon Ayuk being injured, right, for the season, who was often the target of those deep balls last year. But you saw that downfield attack come alive in this one, and that's very significant against a Rams defense that does give up a lot of explosives, really struggles to stop play action. I looked at, I was writing down, just kind of looking at all the big plays off of play action, and I was watching them all just thinking this would work against LA, right? You hit Juwan Jennings on the deep crosser. You have the go ball to Kittle where he's lined up in line. You had, I think it was a Yankee concept with Kittle running the over, and underneath all sorts of runs because it's a very diverse rushing attack as the play fakes. Again, that is exactly what you should be doing against the LA Rams.
Yeah, when they played again in week 5, this was the Juwan Jennings game. He had 11 catches for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I remember this because he's the only player besides Jamar Chase to put up those numbers this season. Chase has done it 3 times. Most recently, the game we just watched. And I was like, Jamar must be the only player to have done this all year. He's done it against the Ravens, and then this most recent game. And then it turns out, no, there's one more game, and it was Juwan Jennings against the Rams in week 5. Yeah, that Purdy was 8 for 8 off of play action in that game. And critically, he didn't have to get rid of the ball quickly ever, right? This was a Rams team that had yet to fully realize the strength of their pass rush relative to the weakness of their coverage at this point in the season. My key for this game for the Rams, you really want to leverage the weakness at running back here. The expectation being Isaac Guerrero. Isaac Guerrero.
Isaac Renner, yeah.
Yeah. Isaiah Davis and Isaac Guerrero both emerging is killing me right now in terms of names. Isaac Guerrero, unlikely to play in this game on Thursday. Means we're now on running back 4 for the San Francisco 49ers. That's Patrick Taylor. So firstly, I want to be a light box team. And the Rams aren't really. They're below average light box team this year. You would kind of think that, the Staley and the Raheem, they were kind of light box. They're a little bit heavier this year. They're running some more 5 down fronts. But I want to be a light box team. I want to win with penetration up front because I really think my defensive line can outclass your offensive line, especially if Trent Williams doesn't go.
He's not.
Yeah, Spencer Buford, third string right guard, going to be in this game as well, it would appear. So I'm going to try to win on early downs with penetration. I'm going to make Patrick Taylor make some mistakes. I'm just not too scared of your running game. I'm going to get extra bodies there in coverage. Don't give you as much yards after the catch, not as much air in the play action pass game. And then my objective is, like on a pass down, we ain't trying to get Brock down so much. We're just trying to hurry him up, right? We have to accelerate the process. He got to sit back there for so long and just pick us apart down the field. We don't have the coverage guys to last against Jawan Jennings and George Kittle, let alone Deebo Samuel, right? Brandon Ayuk was in that game in week 5, not in this game. But we just don't have the horses. And so we need to accelerate Brock's process. He's going to get some scramble drills on us. He's going to get some first downs with his legs, and he's going to hit us downfield a few times outside of the pocket. But we cannot let him be as warm as he was, right? Just as cozy back there. So this is a big, just Jared Verse go detonate against Jalen Moore, right? Let's just destroy pocket integrity. Let's send in extra blitzers, try to get lucky on a few plays, generate some turnovers, and win on defense that way.
Everything you just described is why I'm nervous about 2 things. One, Trent Williams not playing. I think I saw that's confirmed, but it's
Trent and Nick still not practicing, expected not to play those 2 guys.
Nick, okay, I saw Nick was listed as questionable.
Oh, did he?
So
I looked
at that. I was looking at the
yeah.
offense, and Williams, I believe, is not playing. That's huge against this Rams pass rush. And then weirdly, like maybe it's just because he went crazy in the Bears game, but I actually think not having Isaac Guerrero is going to be pretty meaningful, assuming he doesn't play. That's still up in the air as well. But you saw in that Bears game, one, he has a second gear as a back, and I thought they used him a bunch of different ways. And he was very successful. The whole rushing attacking in that game, they like Taylor ran the ball decently well as on top of that, but Isaac Guerrero as a pass catcher, Ben, I think is going to be sorely missed here. He had the huge wheel route for the explosive gain, but having him as an option to sort of neutralize that rush, a screen guy you saw against Buffalo. I think I mentioned this going into the game, and you saw it early on. The Rams cannot defend screens. So losing his explosiveness, that's tough. And that actually, the combination of that and Trent Williams makes me a little bit nervous for San Francisco, even though they're coming off of such a great performance.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I've gotten a lot of questions this year, just like in the mailbag and columns and on social and stuff of like, would you extend Brock Purdy? I think that was not really a conversation last year. And then this year, Niners fans are a little more like, how much, do we want to pay this guy? Brock, if you want to erase all the issues, this is a great game to do it, right? Running game is going to be a 0 for you. You're going to be under pressure a lot because the way this Rams defensive line plays and the state of your offensive line. Make some plays, right? Make some plays outside of structure, make some tough throws down the field. You have Jennings, you have Deebo, you have Kittle, you have enough guys to do it. There's so much air in this Rams secondary. Like this is a game where Brock is that guy. And I'm not saying like, top 5, but like just above the bar, clear franchise quarterback. This is a game he should be able to put points on.
I really think, again, if he looks like he did against Chicago, yeah. The thing about the Brock Purdy contract conversation, we don't have to get into, but what I've been sort of saying, because I have been asked this a lot as well, it's been a topic on some of our shows like First Take and whatnot, because of the contract, the team you are seeing right now is going to be a lot closer to the team you see next year,
right?
Than the team you associate in the past. So in some ways, like when you think about paying Brock Purdy, you have to think about it in that fashion, right? I saw somewhere there was a report today, like they're probably going to cut Javon Hargrave, who hasn't played this year, but there's multiple contracts that are just not tenable if you pay him what he is going to command. So yeah, this is an opportunity for him to prove himself. We haven't even talked about the Rams offense, which is like why I'm going to end up picking the Rams in this one, because oh my God, I mean, Puka Nacua. Good Lord.
Good ball player.
Jesus.
He's one of those players that you watch and you don't like, you don't fully understand how he's as good as he is, right? He's just so technically skilled. It's not like, oh, look at AJ Brown. He's so big and fast. He just is so good at every little thing you could ask a wide receiver to do. He's a delight.
But he's also gotten better. Like he's leveled up at those things. The contested sideline catch. That's not like, it's just, Yeah, I mean, I am a little apprehensive because, like I said, I do think the Niners offense looked really vintage last week. I think that they
Mhm.
understand. Kyle Shanahan understands this Rams team. He knows what he has to dip into to play them. It's just the injuries for me. What about you?
Yeah, I hate to be the cold water on the Rams offense guy because it's been so fun. We've been waiting for it for like 13 weeks, and it was such a cool realization of what the potential we've known this unit has. However, 0 sacks, 0 turnovers, 11 for 15 on third down.
Yeah,
Like it,
a lot of unsustainable stuff.
they
Yeah,
ran so pure on so much stuff. Right, and even like some of the sideline catches, it's like, all right, if Puka had dropped one of his two unbelievable third down against the sideline catches, we would still come out of the game being like, incredible Puka game. He's the best player ever. Like there were so many cherries on top for
yeah.
that. Like they had multiple Cooper Cup explosives. Hasn't happened in a game in 2 years, man. Like I they could play the same way and just get a few coin flips that don't fall their way, and it goes from being that like 98th percentile game to like an 80th percentile game, and they look a little bit more disjointed. I will say, potentially Tyler Higbee back this week, which would be real nice to have a tight end that you trust, a better underneath option against these Niners a little bit. But the Niners, same thing, might be getting Dre Greenlaw back, and so it's there's reinforcements coming on both sides. I think the Rams aren't like I think that was the best offense we'll see from them all season. I like the Niners in
Well,
this game.
that
I think the
that
Niners
was
win.
like a top 0.5%
Yeah.
offense. Like, you're probably right. I think I just like it's like, yeah, it's probably he's probably not going to get hit that on third down again. But also, like, when I see Puka Nacua breaking out, I assume Matthew Stafford is going to hit like that tiny, tiny, tight window.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's really like the Rams and Stafford in particular this year has been susceptible when they face a really good pass rush. And if Nick Bosa doesn't play, I understand that they just had their way with Chicago, but I have questions about their ability to affect the quarterback, the Niners' ability to affect the quarterback. But again, Thursday night, San Francisco,
Mhm.
Niners playing for their seat. I mean, if the Niners don't win this one, it's over for them for sure.
Yeah.
So I think
And we
that,
always know, like, even as a team season ends, if you can ruin a divisional
oh
rival
yeah,
season, that tastes nearly as sweet.
Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, please.
Come on.
Aggressive Sean McVay, by the way. I feel like I didn't spend
Dude,
enough time
if,
talking
if anything
what
can
a
be
development.
sustainable, if anything can be sustainable from last week into this week, let it be fourth down tries, Sean. Let's do it.
Let's hope Shanahan does the same.
Take some notes.
Okay, Ravens Giants. So now we're getting to the games, a couple of the games where it's just one of us. I'll be quick on this one, obviously. So by the way, news: Tommy DeVito is starting, um,
Woohoo!
which kind of not that it would have been that different with Locke, but look, I do not think this Ravens offense will have trouble moving the ball on New York. They're bad at everything the Ravens are good at.
Mhm.
What I find interesting in this game is and as I kind of think ahead to the Ravens in the playoffs, I want to see how this defense handles Malik Neighbors, whether it's Nate Wiggins, Brandon Stevens, whoever they have on him, Marlon Humphrey. Neighbors has been lined up out wide a lot this year, and I suspect, I mean, if I'm Brady Able, that's what I do. Um, this far all season long, we've been just very afraid of this Ravens secondary facing a wide receiver one. Now, again, Tommy DeVito throwing the ball to Neighbors alleviates that concern, so it's not going to be like a true test. But I'm going to feel a lot better about this Ravens defense. This Ravens defense has been playing a lot better as of late, by the way,
Mhm.
if I feel like those cornerbacks have solidified things a little bit.
Yeah, if this were a regular bad team that the Ravens were facing, I would be screaming like prime look ahead spot. They're off the bye with the Steelers next week, right? And so like the whole season's gonna come down to that Steelers game in terms of like maybe winning the North. So this is the sort of game where you just want to win it, and then you're definitely looking ahead. And if this was like a regular bad team, if this were the Saints or the Jets or something, I'd be like, listen, we know this Ravens team loses in dumb ways. The defense isn't good. Like they tend to have bad mistakes against inferior opponents. Like I'm worried. It's Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Like hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, throw a couple screens to Zay Flowers, get an Isaiah likely play action pass. You should look up at the scoreboard. It should say 14-3. Like it just execute here, and we should be fine. DeVito is just like this Ravens pass defense is so bad. DeVito is below the bar of guys who can exploit it. This should be clear and easy Ravens win.
The only way I would feel like a little bit worried about trap game is if they were faced like the things that Tommy DeVito does are things that the Ravens defense is good at stopping, quarterback
Mhm.
runs, scrambles. I
You
I
can't connect
just
on anything down the field. Like they,
yeah.
they don't have good 50-50 ball winners. The Giants do, so you can't even take advantage of Stevens at the catch point. Like it's not there.
Okay, you have so I assume we're both on the Ravens.
Yeah.
You have Jets Jaguars. Ooh,
Which this of the 15 weeks now we've been submitted to in the NFL season. This is, I think, the worst thing. It took me so long to come up with just one sentence what I care about in this game. I want to know what Jets defense shows up, right? Because there was a first half there against the Dolphins where it looked like they were going to be physical and they were going to make their tackles. And there was some high effort and there was some disruptive play in the defensive line. I was like, all right, like maybe there's a little more pride left in this unit. Maybe there's a little bit more punch. And then they lost it in the second half. I mean, they just simply lost interest in running and high effort and making the tackles they needed to make. There's something we saw in that Colts game. We saw it in the Cardinals game a few weeks ago, right? The defense has lost a lot of its teeth in the Jeff Ulbrich era. Now I'm getting a Jaguars team that, like, you know, Mac Jones is not good. Mac Jones, by the way, 5 straight starts, with no passing touchdowns and at least 1 interception. The record is 6 consecutive starts. So we can see history set if the Jets defense shows up. But the thing is that when you watch this Jaguars team that got the win over the Titans and they were close over the Vikings, whatever. Yeah, they have a guy in Tank Bigsby who breaks tackles. They have a guy in Brian Thomas Jr. who breaks angles. Even Etienne breaks angles. They have dudes who, when they get the ball in their hands, like, these guys are athletes. And so there are some worlds where, like, the Mac Jones screens and the shallows and then that diverse running game, like, actually gets some explosives on the Jets and makes this a game. And so I'm curious to see what defense shows up for the Jets. They should win this handily against the Mac Jones team. They know Mac Jones very, very well. But we'll see, because, you know, the effort hasn't been great the last month or so.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers puts up pretty big numbers in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers, who said the other day he hates how people go on ESPN these days and try to make things all about them, by the way. So,
the Mina Kimes Show featuring this is what Aaron Rodgers. It's his place now. It's his time.
Okay. Dolphins Texans is a meaningful game. The Dolphins are fighting for their playoff lives, and they're still winning. You alluded to, they just beat the Jets. The Texans are coming off of a bye. So the Texans have been maybe my least favorite team to watch. Is that, take a pause. Texans least favorite? Because relative to preseason expectations, the abilities of the players, they're very unpleasant.
They are, like, I don't mind watching them because I like CJ, and CJ's good, and CJ makes plays within structure. They're the most frustrating in terms of, like, consuming the numbers and, like, the records and everything, so on and so forth. Watching them, I'm still like, oh, look at Nico Collins. He's so good.
Yeah. So I'm focused on the Texans here. First, my thought was, talk about, has the offense fixed some of their problems since the bye? Have they figured out, a way to run the ball, to protect CJ Stroud, etc.? But I actually wanted to talk about the defense, because I haven't talked about this defense really at all. And I find this to be maybe the more interesting matchup in this one.
That's what I'm talking, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The Texas defense, they have really good players, but they give up a lot of big plays and miss a lot of tackles in a way that is very odd to watch from a DeMeco Ryans coach defense. I mean, they get after the quarterback, but behind that, they're 29th in yards after the catch per reception, giving up a lot of big touchdowns. You just saw Will Levis kind of throw all over them. I mean, I went back to my notes from that game, and it was Calvin Ridley, Westbrook-Ikine just toasting guys. I don't know what to say. Like, and there were different culprits kind of on all the different plays. Sometimes it was Derek Stingley Jr. who, with like bad eyes, being overly aggressive. Sometimes they were going after the safeties. But that's concerning in this one, because you got Calvin Ridley and Westbrook-Ikine. Well, here come Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to town. And oh, by the way, a quarterback who neutralizes your pass rush because he throws the ball so quickly. I think this could be actually like a sneaky difficult matchup for them.
Yeah, so the DeMeco Ryans, Mike McDaniel interface here is a very interesting one. We saw DeMeco play McDaniel in 2022, right? This was DeMeco as the DC of the Niners. This was we were right in the swell of the McDaniel moment for Tua there first season with the Dolphins. They had that big, if you remember, 75-yard touchdown, Trent Sherfield. Oh my gosh, here come the Dolphins. And then they got just sat on for the rest of the game, right? It was a real, real tough game. And that's because Fred Warner was in the middle of the field. And this was the time where the Dolphins were really trying to throw intermediate middle, and Fred was just taking everything away. We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were previewing the Packers game. Tua not thrown in the same area of the field he used to, right? His first season there, 24% of his throws intermediate middle, now 18.2% in 2023, 14.2% this year. It's dropped substantially. They are a much more shallow underneath passing team. But this Texans defense, no Azeez Al-Shaair, suspended. It's going to be Henry To'oTo'o and maybe Christian Harris if he comes back from injury at linebacker. This is the third worst defense in the league defending intermediate middle of the field. They allow a pass rating of 149.3, 32 total passing EPA. Only the Ravens are worse because you can throw right over the middle on a quarters team that doesn't have a
Yeah.
linebacker, and that's the Texans right now.
Crossers, dude.
Yeah,
Crosser. Levis was killing them with crossers. And I
yeah,
looked this up. They have allowed the third most EPA per play on crossers,
right.
according to SAS in the NFL. Tua has the highest on target rate throwing the crossers. It's right there, dude. Like it's right. The plan is there for
And
Miami.
you asked that question. The Texans defense has so many good players. Why is this happening? Defense is a weak league system, right?
Yeah.
If you got 10 good players and one bad players, you got a problem on defense, right?
That type
And
of defense.
yeah,
Right. Specifically, right?
yes,
Like
and the Texans have such a good pass rush. They have Stingley, who I think is great on the outside. Jalen Petrie maybe not going to go in this game, but okay, very very good safety, aggressive, whatever. But in the middle of the field, they do not have good coverage linebackers, and so Danielle Hunter has 20 more pressures than the next closest dude in football, and I can negate that because I know that there's air in the middle of the field, right? So you have a weak link issue, and a coach, D'Amico Ryans, who just has so much faith in his backers, so much faith in his safeties. Play fast, hit. We're going to discourage these throws, but over 14 weeks of the season, you don't have the horses, brother. They have not been able to do it. So the key for this game for the Dolphins, they're my team, they're on the road. Let's wake up that intermediate passing game. And you saw that a little bit against the Jets, right? The presence now of Jonnu Smith underneath, starting to pull linebackers down a little faster, starting to open some more intermediate deep windows. We're going to go back to the 2022 recipe, and I think we're going to throw all over Houston.
Yeah, I'm not. So we're actually, like on the exact opposite sides of this issue. I mean, we agree, but we agree that this is the defining point. Yeah, I just wanted to talk because the Titans game is just so fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I get those crossers, man. He was killing them on Will Levis, and this is the Dolphins. Like I'm nervous. It's got to kill D'Amico to be playing with this linebacker group right now because to your point, like again, you talked about the defense being a weak league system, but that defense that loves to play quarters and rushes with 4, they've been blitzing a lot more. Like the linebacker position is so important to what he does, and he has played with such good linebackers in his system, and not having them is a real problem against this Miami team.
Yeah, and they love Christian Harris, and they're hoping that maybe he's back for this game. But like, for as much as they love Christian Harris, I watched the Christian Harris film 2023. I'll still throw an intermediate middle of the field if Christian Harris is out there. I'm going to test to see how he looks coming back off of a major injury. So yeah, I'm
I'm banning they love blank player on this pod, by the way.
Oh yeah, do I say that a lot? Is that
no? You don't say that a lot, but whenever I hear people say that, I'm like, all right, like
it's my way of saying I don't love this player. Yeah. They love this player.
Like,
cool. Yeah.
Are you gonna take the Dolphins?
Yeah, I think the Dolphins win. I don't trust the Texans. I don't trust the Texans' pass protection against a smart DC and Anthony Weaver. I don't trust the Texans' ability to stay ahead of the sticks and ahead of the script against a defense, again, that's going to put a blanket on top of you in 3rd and long and make it really hard for you to throw the football. I really don't trust this Texans passing game overall since Stephon Diggs left. I think that the Tank Dell issue is a legitimate problem. I think the fact they don't have a good target, too, is hampering them right now. Nico Collins is going to get his. CJ is going to get his. I don't think they're going to be able to run it that easily on this defensive front, which is still so good against the run.
Front, Ben? On this defensive front, this might be, by the way, 2 of the worst rushing attacks in football right here in Miami.
I'm trying to be so nice to the Texans in this segment. You're just not letting me. Just hit me. They love them, and then they run on any defensive front. I'm trying to prevaricate around the issues here.
Sorry.
Yeah,
we speak out of. Like, I don't get this worked up talking about
We're not mad. We're disappointed. We wanted you to be better, Houston. Come on. Yeah, I think the Dolphins win.
Yeah. I hear you. I actually wouldn't be surprised if CJ Stroud in this passing attack looks a lot better than they did before the bye, but I am worried about the other side of the ball. I'll take Miami as well.
Yeah. I will say I would love to push a Danielle Hunter Defensive Player of the Year thing. He's been an unbelievable pressure player. It's one of his greatest seasons, one of the best seasons we've seen in the last 5 years. Got more plays on the ball. We need more sacks. We need more forced fumbles, and that's been absent from his game. This is a game where Danielle can to take over against this tackle group. Needs to do so. Need to get to the hole in the ball a little bit.
And it's possible this year. I would say that's another somewhat of a difference. Okay, Cowboys Panthers. This is you. Yep. Okay, so you saw Panthers played the Eagles, played them very close and tough. So you got a firsthand glimpse at the Bryce Young renaissance. Panthers, I think you mentioned this, are favored in this game, which is
First
Unbelievable.
time since December of 2022. It's been, I want to say 34 games, I think it is. They're like 3-14 in the last 17 games as a favorite or something. Like, it's not good that the Panthers are favored. That's generally been bad news for them. Uh, yeah, they're 3-point favorites at home. I think that's wrong. I think that we're gassing up the Panthers renaissance a little bit too much. The issue here for Carolina, man, the run defense is still just
Really
dead
bad.
last to next to last. Pretty much anything you can find. At recent football, season long football success rate, EPA per carry, like, it's just not a good group. And you'll play on Rico Dowdle and this Cowboys running game that has over the last month. If only since week 1 we could have known that Rico is maybe the guy
Yeah,
for this
I had to give
backfield.
Zeke those carries, man.
Yep.
I don't yeah, he looks I mean, granted, they just played Cincinnati, major caveat for any team that played I mean, they're just that defense is god
Yeah.
awful, but they can run the ball. I will say having just watched Cooper Rush partly as Homer Simpson, but partly as Cooper Rush, I have no faith
Mhm.
in his even against a very bad Panthers defense. I just watched him against a very bad Bengals defense. I have a lot more faith in the quarterback on the other side of the field.
Crazy. Are you worried that football watching is just gonna die for you now because you have to watch as just regular people for the rest of your life?
Oh, bad games, I'll be upset. They should have an
Yeah.
option for bad games where you can watch them as
Yeah.
characters because that was my number one takeaway from The Simpsons experience is it really embiggens a bad
Yeah.
game, like,
And
by all
I texted you beforehand, like, okay, no, I've never really watched The Simpsons growing up. Like, I will put this on. I'm not gonna get any of these jokes, but I'm dialed in. When the fire came behind Lisa Simpson on the Chase Brown touchdown, I was up out of my seat. I was like, that is sick. Let's go. Can we get fire on NFL broadcast? That was amazing.
sick. One more note on this game for me is
Mhm.
I am not buying the Cowboys' improved run defense, but especially by the way, now they don't have DeMar Van Overshown as well. It's a massive, depressing,
Sucks.
awful injury. I know it's just the worst. Chuba Hubbard's a really good back. I am all in on the Chuba Hubbard experience. So I actually think Carolina will be able to run the ball and play action off of it. Give me Carolina. Give me Bryce Young getting his
Wait,
first
that
win.
points. Yeah. Rico over the last 5 weeks is 5th in rushing yards over expectation. Chuba's 3rd. Both
Ooh,
these run defenses are bad. This is Cooper Rush versus Bryce Young, but it's really running game versus running game. And whoever can control script here, I think is gonna come out the winner. And so I lean Cowboys on the spread. I think it's pretty 50-50. I'll take the Panthers, pick them to win, Cowboys to cover. I'll do a little hedge my bets there. Be nice.
all right. Commander Saints. Oh boy.
Saints playing Hayner, right? Not Rattler.
Last I saw it was up in the air, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Hayner. Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Sorry.
Tough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is. I'm sorry, Saints fans. I don't mean to be so. Neither of those people should be a starting quarterback next year. By the way, I did hear Chris Olave not back this week, but potentially back down the stretch. Very, very meaningful for the Mina Kimes Dynasty team. So I'm
Yeah.
monitoring that situation.
Have to wonder if he'll get the same number of targets given MVS's emergence. All right, how are they going to balance these two elite receivers?
I can't. MVS is going to be like bouncing around the NFL for like the next 15 years. He's going to be
It's
catching
unreal.
blue balls in the playoffs. Okay. So last week, Carolina had or not Carolina, right? Washington had a bit of a get right game, right, against Tennessee. Looked a lot like they did at the beginning of the season. Bijan Robinson, pardon me. Brian Robinson and Chris Rodriguez ran for a combined 197 yards, 7 yards a carry.
Healthy.
That was against the Titans defense, which is 9th in DVOA against the run. Now they face a Saints defense that is 31st, which seems high.
It's repellent to watch. It's so offensive. They're so bad.
So I just, I think for Washington, this is not going to be a test for them, but it'll be another opportunity to continue to sort of get right on offense as they head into the playoff run.
Yeah. No Noah Brown, apparently this week, but potentially for the rest of the season. There might be a season-ending surgery there, which is a non-small deal because of what he is in the blocking game for their wide receiver screen and their general screen game. But he's also just like kind of been their most reliable target, right? Like Dami Brown has had his moments, Luke McCaffrey's had his moments, but Noah's been that guy. And so big thing for the Commanders just to flag as they move to the postseason is you gotta, target 1 is Terry McLaurin, target 2 is Zach Ertz. It'd be very nice if a target 3 could emerge in Noah Brown's absence. Something to figure out over December.
My other very sad dynasty, I have Dami Brown on my team.
Mm-hmm.
Why not Dami Brown?
Take a shot. Yeah, exactly. Just a one catch, 52 yards, touchdown. That can win you a week right there.
Happened a couple of times. Okay,
there you go.
Chiefs Browns is you.
Yeah, I'm low-key very excited for this game. I think this is personally, I
Nasty.
think the Browns are gonna win. Secondly, big injury news in this one. DJ Humphries with a hamstring. So
Yeah.
after adding Humphries, who gave up 10 pressures in his first stint as the Chiefs left tackle, they might have to go back to Wanya Morris or Kingsley Sumatia. Doesn't feel great. Also, though, Hollywood Brown might be practicing this week. Potential to return in this, probably not this
This
week, but
game,
potentially
no, but
next week. Yeah,
wow,
potentially more likely next week, but the potential is
that's
still there.
huge.
I'm gonna say something that I hate that it's true, and I'm sorry to all NFL fans, but here it comes. The Chiefs offense with DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown, Isaiah Pacheco, and Travis Kelce might actually just like become good. Like they might be able to just stop being bad and actually be good, and they're good in the postseason. And all of the season will have gone through this agonizing Chiefs offense, end up with an actual good group by the time we get to January.
What about the offensive line situation makes you? Because I hear you with the pass catchers, and
Mhm.
I think Brown getting back is huge in that
Right.
regard. But and I think Pacheco has made a big difference for them on the ground. Just obviously hits a different gear from Kareem Hunt. But I remain concerned about this offensive line situation and the way it's affecting Patrick Mahomes.
It's so much easier to solve a left tackle problem when it's the only huge problem on the offense, right? Like I don't have to use Noah Gray as an explosive pass catcher, which is what he's been for the last month, nearly as much when I have Hollywood Brown in place. I can actually get some explosive on my receivers. Now I can leave Noah Gray in a little bit more and protect the left side of the line, right? Like when the Chiefs offense right now has to be so picture perfect in order to work, such that when they have all these issues going on, the Pacheco, the running back room is bad, the wide receiver room was bad, the left tackle spot was bad. You just can't allocate your resources to put out that many fires. When Pacheco returns, Hollywood Brown returns, the receivers play a little bit better. I can allocate a lot more resources to solving the left tackle issue. So that's where my confidence comes from.
Sorry, I assume we both picked the Commanders. I skipped that too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not picking this.
Uh, so I am worried about an upset here be- because of actually the Browns' offense against the Chiefs' defense. The Miles Garrett against question mark,
Yeah,
is always a
it's
bad
nightmare
thing.
fuel.
But man, this Chiefs defense gives up a lot of plays downfield right now, Ben. Since Jalen Watson went out for the injury, 27th in UPA per play on deep passes. And the game that comes to mind is you called this Aiden O'Connell just slinging it on them. But even the Chargers game, Chargers didn't have anyone, really to throw to. But well, actually, that's not true. Josh Palmer beat them downfield, and Justin
Mhm.
Herbert missed them. But my point is just watching that secondary, like they're I don't think they have the speed if the rush doesn't get home, and if you have a quarterback who can really uncork it. And whatever you think about James Winston and Jerry Judy, we saw they can attack you. They will attack you downfield. So I think the formula for an upset, trap game, whatever, is just James hitting on a few of those, and we've seen him do it in recent weeks.
Yeah, and against I think the injuries and the availability is a big one here. If it's Jerry Judy and Elijah Moore and Michael Woods, I think is the third receiver. Then all right, I'm taking Trent. I'm putting him on Jerry. Trent can go inside and outside. I can take away that primary target. There's no David Njoku in this game, most likely. I can make you throw to some guys you don't necessarily want to throw to too much. Cedric Tillman, who's been in the concussion protocol, and he was the guy who was emerging before Judy was. He was the guy who was having the 120-yard games with Jameis Winston out there, potentially back out of the protocol this week. So if I can get Ced Tillman back on the field, now I've got multiple guys I can throw to, and I can start to play the I don't throw to Trent McDuffie game, which right now has been the game for everybody playing the Chiefs. Josh Williams is probably going to be that corner too. He's a big press guy, but if I get Jerry Judy on Josh Williams, the first free release I get, the ball is going there. And I really think that I can win down the field. Like you said, there's not a lot of team speed. Yeah. The Browns are all explosives. The Chiefs pass defenses all give up explosives.
Yeah.
On the flip side of the ball, the only thing the Browns defense sucks at is giving up explosives, right? They're insanely high success rate, insanely high at forcing 3 and outs, not giving up a first down. They just give up. They're very feast or famine. They have a lot of pressure, a lot of press coverage. And then when they lose on big plays. So one thing the Chiefs don't do on offense, they don't create big plays. The Chiefs offense is all about being perfect for 12, 13, 14 plays. And you can't do that against the Browns because they're too disruptive up front. It is not a good matchup for the Chiefs at all.
It just feels like all these close games, like something's gonna give at some point.
Yes,
And
I have been picking the opponent of the Chiefs to win the last 5 weeks, and
have
it's
you?
not going well. But at some point,
I
they're going
switched
to lose
off
one.
of the Chargers when I found out McConkey was out, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do this offense.
That was scary, yeah.
But I don't hate the Browns as a pick straight up in this one. I'm still going to pick the Chiefs, but this is definitely a close call. All right, one more before the break, and we get to significantly better football games. Bengals Titans, just me. We really don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
Yes.
Um, my only note is I actually think this one could be closer than it seems because while I am in no way on the bring Levis back train, he can hit on some big plays, as I just
Hmm.
talked about, when he is kept clean. And well, this Bengals pass rush, oh my God, nobody outside from Trey Hendrickson gets pressure. Now, Trey Hendrickson against, I guess, JC Latham or whoever is not a good matchup in this for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if they can run the ball on them pretty well. If Levis hits on a few and they make it closer than it should be.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think that the running game is going to be a big deal. I think the screen game is going to be a big deal. I think you try to protect Levis from his greater demons by making sure this is a low time to throw, first read sort of a game. If you need to throw your way back into it, you can. Titans defense, man, so good for so long, and then they just hit a wall. And
Yeah.
now that the pass defense hasn't been what it's been in past, obviously a good game against the Jags, but who cares? And now you're getting Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase at a level where just like they
They're
cannot miss if they try. And so you gotta score and keep pace, which the Titans are capable of. They're also capable of like 3 first half turnovers, 8 first half penalties, 2 of the worst special teams plays you ever saw in your daggone life. And so, yeah, it's tough to back them.
I will take the Bengals in this. All right.
Yeah,
You
Bengals
guys
too.
will. Let's take a quick break, come back and talk about one of the bigger AFC games of the week. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, Colts Broncos, Ben. So I don't
Yes.
have the playoff implications.
I was literally just about to pull it up. I will find it. Give me 10 seconds.
I assume this is one of the more significant games of the entire week. Even like some of the good games that we're about to discuss don't really matter like a ton for the playoff race. But these are 2 teams who are very much locked in competition to be the wild cards in the AFC. Broncos in pole position here. But yeah, this is a big one.
Next gen stats: Broncos with a win, 91% chance of making the playoffs, 51% with a loss.
Wow.
Colts with a loss, 6% chance to make the playoffs. With a win, 51% chance.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So if the Colts win this, you're coin flipping between the Broncos and the Colts for the postseason. If the Colts lose this, it's pretty much Broncos taking that last seed.
Okay. So
Playoff game in week 15. Let's go.
God. You go first because I just went.
Mhm.
So your Colts, I'm Broncos.
Yeah.
What you got?
We got to catch the ball. We got to catch the ball. It is that simple. If you go and you look from a top down like a efficiency perspective, right? Okay, like what are the Broncos bad at? Right? Like I said, the Browns great success rate, but they lose to explosives. Yeah. Broncos across the board are good. Run, pass, explosives, success rate. Are they getting nickel and dimed? Are they giving up yards after the catch? No, across the board they're good. However, they are stylistically very hyper specific, right? This is going to be a blitz heavy, man coverage heavy team. That is their identity, is the way they play. They don't really change it for anybody. We saw in that Browns game, Riley Moss is gone. Well, maybe we need to change the way we play coverage a little bit because we're weak at corner. No, this is not how Vance Joseph plays football.
Wallace, dude, look, obviously he played poorly. 6 catches for 151 yards as the nearest defender is never a good day at the office.
You got that one off the dome, too. You got it memorized.
I actually, because I wrote, this is one of my points for the Broncos. Right. Whoever is replacing Riley Moss, because it looks like he's not going to play in this game. I actually couldn't tell. They worked out Jerry Jacobs. You have Jabari Mathis, who played for them last year. Obviously, Wallace is still on the team. They got to protect them. Like you said, he was kind of hung out to dry. I mean,
I love Vance. I love Vance so much. Vance is personnel agnostic. I don't care who's out there. We run our stuff.
Indianapolis, whoever it is who you're going after.
Yeah. And Anthony Richardson this year against the blitz, 16 air yards per attempt. All right. When Richardson sees heat, he's either getting out of the pocket and he's scrambling, which is going to be a problem for the Broncos in this game. That's a legitimate worry. Yeah. Or he is uncorking a deep shot, right? I know I have a one-on-one. I know there's no safety help. Let's go get connected. Now, obviously, every way you look at completion percentage, every single player that he's targeting besides Josh Downs, and of course Downs isn't his downfield target, but completion percentage over expectation is really low. You got drops by Adonai Mitchell and Michael Pittman. You got failures against the sideline by Kylan Granson, Ashton Doolin. It's just that the connection between quarterback and wide receiver has just not been good down the field for Richardson all year. That's the bad news. The good news is that we know deep passing to be pretty noisy statistically, right? Like a lot of these misses are
Yeah.
by a fingertip up against the sideline by 6 inches. Like it's one of those things that doesn't work until it does, and when it hits big. And so you're sitting there as the Colts going, all right, like we actually have like a nice X's and O's matchup into this team because we like our guy, like a guy like Mitchell going down the field. We like a guy like Alec Pierce going down the field. We like Anthony Richardson's arm strength, his ability to sustain and take a hit in the pocket. Like stylistically, this works. We just haven't seen it yet. And so you really have to believe this would be a great game where you could run the football and stay ahead of the six, not have to rely too much on those deep shots. But it's going to fundamentally come down to connecting on the passes downfield. Non-negotiable from the Colts. Wide receivers need to step up.
Have you ever had a friend who was in a relationship and you were like, you guys should not be together? Like they're so
Currently, yes.
obviously incompatible that you have someone like that in your life. That's how I feel every time Anthony Richardson throws AD Mitchell the football.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is going on here? It's because every time it's something different and every time a different person is to blame. I know that sounds crazy, but.
And Josh Downs is the guy who's been Anthony Richardson's friend for 4 years, and they get along great, and they have inside jokes, and you're like, what if?
He's right there. Mr. Right. He catches everything. He
Alec
gets
Pierce,
you.
too, a little bit. Also, Alec Pierce stepping up this year. I'd throw a little more to 14.
I don't know what the hell is up. Him and AD Mitchell, it's one of the most bizarre quarterback wide receiver mismatches for whatever reason that I have ever seen. Yeah, Josh Downs is in every way the friend in the romantic comedy. Like he is so solid, he's so reliable, he's gonna be there for you in hard times. And I think that's I would, by the way, go after these Broncos linebackers, which is another thing that the Browns did pretty well. But so I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a pretty robust RPO package in this one too, from Shane Steichen. But
if only there was one tight end on this Colts team who had made one play at any point in this season, I would feel great about going after the tight end or the linebackers. Excuse me.
Okay, so I'm looking at the Broncos, and part of the reason why I think the Broncos win this game is I think this is a really good matchup for their offense, for Bo Nix. Bo Nix, under pressure, a little up and down. Man coverage, and that's not just Bo Nix, it's Broncos offense. So I actually pulled this out of curiosity. Since the Bo Nix, like week 6 is kind of when things started looking up for him. 5th in QBR versus zone coverage, 20th versus man. You saw that play out against Cleveland, by the way. This Colts defense plays almost, ton of zone, not that great of a pass rush. I feel like they'll be able to run the ball decently well, and I think that Bo Nix can pretty comfortably carve them up.
Yeah, the Colts pass rush has been playing better down like certain sense of return to Forrest Buckner. Yeah, exactly. They have a little bit of penetration. It'd be a nice game where you could get some takeover plays there because the Broncos running game, like they either get 12 or they get -1, and you have to be really, really good on those series where you get them into that -1. You can get these backs to make mistakes. You can win against this interior a little bit. Be a great game for Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner. A little bit of penetration. Let's create some second and longs. Let's put these Broncos in a little bit more pure pass because this passing game is very like screen reliant and swing pass reliant. Some sprint out stuff, some 2-man concept stuff. Like if you can get them into pure pass, this isn't Bo Nix hating. It is just objectively true of the game of the rookie quarterback. And they really only have one receiver. Then you can make this passing game hurt a little bit. What I will say is I do not think the Colts are equipped to deal with Courtland Sutton in the slightest. And that's where, like, even if you get this thing on a neutral script and okay, you're connecting on the deep passes and it's 14-14 and you're there with the Broncos, at some point, Bo's just going to start smashing the 14 button. And you do not have an outside corner. I know they've had some moments, Sam Womack, but in general, you do not have a corner play right now that can handle the way Sutton's delivering for you. And so that's the issue I don't know how the Colts solve. They don't really have tools in the Gus Bradley toolbox, like bracket a guy, double guy. It's not really how they play. And over his time there, they've lost to big outside receivers who play like Courtland Sutton plays. That's the matchup I'm scared of.
So the Colts, we think of them as like a cover 3 defense under Gus Bradley, and they do play a lot of cover 3, but they also have been playing a lot of cover 2 this year at a pretty high rate. I actually just pulled this because I was like, it feels right. Six highest rate in the NFL of cover 2. Courtland Sutton versus cover 2. I mean, Bo Nix hitting them over the middle of the field for explosives. I feel like, which is he'll throw that ball. I feel
rip and digs, absolutely, yeah.
I just think that matchup favors Denver in this one. I'm picking Denver.
This is a really, really, really important game for both respective running games because you both Richardson for his mercurialness, but then also Nix just for how he's been good for the last 6 or 7 weeks. Whichever team can get the lead and minimize their quarterback is going to be successful. Because I do think like Broncos in a bad game script, I do think you'll see this Colts pass rush generate some problems, right? You're going to see them play fast into those screens. They are like, this is a fast linebacking core. It is a good tackling nickel and Kenny Moore. It's a good tackling corner group. Like, I do think you're going to see them be able to hassle the underneath game and the behind line of scrimmage game more than a lot of defenses that have recently played the Broncos. And that can get the Broncos in some bad down and distances. I still think Broncos win. Colts, you're off of a bye. The season's on the line. It's been such an up and down season. And you can, this whole thing, man, you can coalesce it into just like, all right, if we're good for the next 4 weeks, we're in the dance, we're in the postseason. If you just handle business, so like, I expect a very impassioned Colts team. I also think the Broncos are going to win.
Yeah, this feels like it's not like Anthony Richardson's job's on the line at this point, but there's a real opportunity here for him to show how much he's improved.
Yeah.
Against a very difficult defense. Granted, one that apparently Riley Moss was the thing holding it all together. Okay. But to go back to that, Winston and Richardson, very different quarterbacks, but have the sort of similarities that could play out in this one if, as you said, astutely, the Colts catch the damn ball and Anthony Richardson throws it accurately. I don't want it to come across like we're defending. Like, I hope it was obvious. I was talking about A.D. Mitchell. Both sides very frustrating.
Right. The tagline is catch the ball, and then the subtitle is they're not all going to be accurate. So the ones that are, please, please, please catch them. We need to connect on these.
Okay, Patriots, Cardinals, just me. Cardinals playoff chances dwindled to like next to nothing after their loss to the Seahawks last week. Mm-hmm. So there's not, both sides don't have that much to play for. I with the Pats, obviously, it's always just like you want to just continue to see Drake May having success. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a nice matchup for him. Cardinals pass rush isn't great, so he might have some more opportunities. I wrote though, like Kyler Murray, like there's like you really got like to feel good as a Cardinals fan going into next season after maybe you got a little bit out ahead of your skis this year.
Yeah.
You want Kyler to finish strong. And I think there's get right opportunity for him here. Dominique and I talked about this, Ben. Yeah, obviously the last 3 weeks have been pretty rough for him, although I thought he played pretty well in the Vikings game. But the Seahawks and the Vikings, I think, are two of the trickier defenses in the NFL right now. Really struggled with some of the pressures that they were sending and not sending. And, the run game wasn't quite what it is. You can clean all of that up against this New England defense.
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity here for this Cardinals offense to sort of get back on track and at least start finishing the season stronger.
Yeah, and like you bring up, all right, we're Patriots fans looking to the future. Let's make sure we keep stacking good May games. As you transition the Cardinals fans, sadly, from postseason push to, okay, maybe not. I turn my eyes back to Marvin Harrison. I go, okay, why? Like, would have been really nice to have in that Seahawks game there? A wide receiver that you can consistently rely on for high volume targets. And for whatever reason, obviously, it's not to take anything away from Trey McBride, but you want the beauty is having both of them. You look at any contender in the NFL, there's a Devontae Smith to an AJ Brown, a Jalen Waddle to a Tyreek Hill, a T. Higgins to a Jamar Chase. You need multiple dudes in the NFL. And the fact that remember, like it was like a month and a half ago, it was like Halloween. We were like, they're figuring it out. And then they just went right back away from it again. And it's just more isolation routes. It's just more vertical routes. They continue to struggle to marry what Marvin Harrison does well in their heads to what their base offense is. And that's very disappointing.
I think some of it too is like watching Marvin Harrison Jr. in college, even though I don't love the way he's used now all the time, I would have thought that the college receiver I saw would be more of like a ball winner in those situations. Cause it's a lot of, like you said, isolation routes, asking him to win downfield. And it's been a big letdown for me. Like I see him a lot, not a lot, but there's definitely been moments this season where I'm like, catch the ball, dude. Like you're gigantic and fast and have great hands. And I don't think he's played up to his skill level this year, to be honest, even though he's had moments where you see the talent. So yeah, I agree. It's a great point. Like you want to see both him and Kyler finish the season strong, and then you can start building on that. Obviously the defense is still missing some pieces, and they're still they're not quite there yet as a roster.
Yeah, I don't know who names the podcasts around here, and I'm not trying to step on any toes, but it's been a big podcast for catch the ball, dude. I'm just saying, like, week 15, the 15 week 15, catch the ball, dude. Let's secure some passes here. Come on.
Okay, not a problem in this next game. Bills Lions, featuring a lot of guys who catch the damn ball. I think the Lions must have the lowest drop rate in the NFL without looking. It has to be. When was the last time you saw a Lions receiver drop a football?
Jameson? Besides Jameson, I don't think I've seen since the last 3 years. But Jameson accounts for some of that.
So this game absolutely rocks. I'm gonna go first.
Yeah.
I think that this Lions offense can really make the Bills compromise their structural integrity. Let me rephrase that. I think the Lions offense can do exactly what the Rams did in terms of like making the Bills so uncomfortable with their
Mhm.
run fits that they're compromised in coverage. Partially because I talked about that earlier in this week with talking about sort of the Rams versus the Bills and potential weaknesses in the Bills defense. The Rams offense and the Lions offense under Ben Johnson, different, very different
It's
players.
like you're reading off my notes right now. This is so
Okay,
annoying. Yeah,
but really shared DNA, right? Like I just pulled this Rams, most condensed formations in the NFL, Lions, third most. Rams, highest motion rate in the NFL, Lions, fifth. When Rams use motion to run the ball, which the Bills had a lot of problem with, they're fourth in success rate. The Lions are third. The Rams have wide receivers who block. So do the Lions. Everything that the Rams did in terms of getting downhill and then also displacing those second level defenders by stretching them, east west, the way that they force the Bills to bring safety into the box, the Lions could do all of that. I think this is a really tough. This might be outside of the Ravens, I guess, right? We saw this. This might be the worst matchup for the Bills
right.
defense in the entire NFL,
So
Ben.
that's exactly what it's like if you made the Rams more Ravens-ish.
Yeah,
That's the team that the Bills
I
have
know
to
it's
play.
like that.
Yeah, right.
Like
Yeah,
Sandbag.
it's
Yeah,
like right, exactly. Like the Bills have gotten embarrassed on defense by two teams. It was the Ravens who go heavy personnel, get under center, run the football with some big bodies up there,
yeah.
and then they go play action pass off of that. And then you have this Rams team that will they'll go condensed formations, but it's not with heavy bodies. But they use the motion and the players moving at the snap, and then they get into their drop back passing game, and then they flood your zones down the field. And the marriage of that is what they're cooking in Detroit.
Literally what Detroit does. Yeah.
And so I have it in like bold, like 16-point type font. We have to attack Jared Goff. It's the only weak point. Like there is one gap in the armor. There's one loose scale on Smog. All right, and it is the quarterback when he is pressured is being able to move Jared Goff off of his spot and forcing him to throw the ball quickly. You know they're going to get some wobblers. You're going to get some interceptable passes. You're going to get some throws
Texans.
dirted.
You need to
Yeah,
replicate the Texans game.
yeah,
Basically.
and you're not going to do it on every drive.
No.
There's going to be plenty of drives where the Lions run the ball so consistently and so well on you, and then hit the flash passes. You just never get to a third and blitz. You never get to a sim pressure moment, and you're
Okay.
going to lose. Yeah,
Bills fans, though, before you're listening to this, you're freaking out. We just said that you're about to face the worst matchup on defense. I have good news for you. If you can just stop them once or twice, you have the best player in the NFL right now at quarterback, and he and this offense, I think, can attack Detroit. I mean, this Detroit defense, very injured, having to send a lot of blitzer. Josh Allen can rip that up, man. Josh Allen, I think, gives the Bills an absolutely a fighting chance in this one. The Lions defense is a lot better than the Rams defense, in my opinion, but I think this version of the Lions defense, he can absolutely like. By the way, coaching is huge in this after coming off of the Sean McDermott, whatever that was.
so bad. I was yelling.
If he doesn't match Dan Campbell's aggression, they're not going to win this football game. I really
Right?
believe.
Yeah. Oh, dude, if he gets out fourth down, out analytics twice in a row, Buffalo's gonna cede to Canada. It's not gonna be
John
pretty.
Elway, yeah, right. But
Yeah.
Dan's going to do it. So.
Yeah. The as every Lions fan knows, since Aaron Glenn became the DC, they are terrified of mobile quarterbacks, hate playing them, right? With the amount of blitzing, with the amount of man coverage, with some of the issues at linebacker, like they just died of mobile quarterbacks. The king of all mobile quarterbacks. Just obviously like it's Lamar from like a design run perspective, but from a scramble, screw around and make something happen perspective, the Godzilla of mobile quarterbacks is coming to Buffalo. And what Aaron Glenn all of his time there in Detroit when they're healthy, and now especially so when they are unhealthy, right? You're saying, okay, what are you gonna sacrifice? Where are you gonna try to cover things up? Like, how are you gonna deal with all these injuries? The one thing Aaron Glenn has remained completely and totally non-negotiable on is that they're going to be +1 in the box. We are going to have enough bodies that we are going to stop the run and take away your running backs. That Joe Brady and Josh Allen. No, please. Oh, don't over-index to James Cook. No, that'd be terrible. Right? I mean, it's going to be similar to that Rams game where James Cook's going to have 8 carries and Josh Allen's going to drop back 55 times, and you are just not equipped to deal with that if you're Detroit.
Khalil Shakir is so. I feel like we have to change the way we talk about him because, like, last year it was like, oh, he's like a deep threat. That's nice. And then the points this year is like, oh, he's like a screen guy. He gets yards after the catch. But watching him in that Rams game, Ben, I was like, he's wide receiver 1. Astronaut meme, always has been. But, like, that dude, I mean, versus man coverage, Detroit's going to play a ton of man coverage. I love Khalil Shakir in this game.
Yeah.
I think because of Josh Allen, the way he's playing, everything the offense is doing, this is going to be close. I'm still going to take Detroit just because of that matchup that we talked about at the beginning. But this is close. This is a close one.
I will say, so you brought up the man coverage point, looking from yards per route run this season when Josh Allen's throwing the football, Shakir's almost double against zone than he is against man coverage. Now that's extremely expected for a slot receiver. Most slot receivers show that sort of a bias. He's still 1.7 yards per route run against man coverage, which is very good for a slot receiver. So he's still there, and they don't really have slot solutions. Keon Coleman's the guy who's remarkably more productive from a target per route basis and a yards per route run basis against man coverage this season. Has not practiced in the last month with a wrist injury. It is a big question mark whether or not he goes. Keon back is an enormous deal for this Bills team because it means you're putting a guy there instead of Mac Hollins who can actually test Carlton Davis, and you're going to need that 4 or 5 times in this game.
Kincaid's back as well, by the way, or not as well, but Kincaid is going to play. Dalton Kincaid is going to play in this game, so that gives them another potential weapon against man coverage. Yeah. Are you Bills or Lions?
I think the Lions are the better team, and they're at home, and they should win. The Bills coming off of that loss,
yeah, it might be like
I think there's going to be a lot of juice. I will say, when I go to list coaches I do not trust in this game, right? You talked about the Sean McDermott issue with the fourth down decision making. Joe Brady. If we are screwing around with Curtis Samuel targets behind the line of scrimmage against this defense, which tackles with a rabid ferocity, unlike which is known to man, if we are messing around with 4th and 4 James Cook screens, when we have this many matchup advantages and we have a superhuman at quarterback, and we're letting, Brian Branch dive bomb us behind the line of scrimmage, like you cannot waste a drive in this game. Yeah. You cannot do it. And so I'm very worried about the Sean McDermott, Joe Brady brain trust of this all, making the 2 mistakes that this game ends up sliding on, kind of not dissimilar to the Rams game. I'll take the tune in after the break. I'll take the Lions, but I don't feel good about it.
Bucks, Chargers. We can be a little bit quicker here because we really need to save room for Steelers, Eagles.
Go Birds.
So let's see. My note for the Chargers, it's kind of funny because I actually think the Bucks offense, I want to say, like, the Chargers defense is very, very good. And I think that I think they can create a lot of problems for Baker Mayfield, who's quietly been turning the ball over a lot, and they can really get takeaways, playing that zone defense, getting pressure. I do think, however, I fear that the Bucks can run the ball on them. Yep. Flip side, I don't like the Chargers running the ball on Tampa, but I do think Justin Herbert can pass the ball on this Tampa defense. I think, they're so injured. I just looked this up. Like, all their safeties are out. Antoine Winfield Jr. is still out. So you're looking at Ryan Neal maybe being elevated. Seahawks legend Ryan Neal. You got Christian Izin, Kayvon Merriweather. I mean, it's just a mash unit back there. And I assume Ladd McConkey will be back in this game. Even, I gotta say, like, I know I was just kind of poo-pooing them, but I thought the Chargers receivers actually played pretty damn well. Stone Smart, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnson had a decent game.
They got Ladd with 2 Ds and Stone Smart with 2 Ts, man. They got a type over there.
Stone Smart's kind of nice.
Yeah, listen, it's been like every broadcaster's had a primetime Chargers game for the last 3 years. Have been like, do you know who this coaching staff loves? Stone Smart. They're building him slowly but surely.
I feel like for so long was like used him as like I'm defending Justin Herbert. Like, he's throwing a Stone Smart, but actually I was watching this game, the last game, and thinking like, he played well.
Quarterback. He was the Old Dominion quarterback, right? That was his.
I don't know. At one point, Chris Collinsworth compared him to Isaiah Likely, and I was like, okay, now I can't praise Stone Smart.
He moved. Yeah, he was a quarterback at Old Dominion for his first 2 years there, and then he moved to wide receiver in 2021, and then became a tight end in the NFL when he joined in 2022. So it's been a long road for Stone Smart, and now he's made it on the Mina Kimes Show featuring Rodney.
All right. Well, Stone Smart is my key to the game. No, the Chargers should be able to pass on them. That's my key. This Bucks defense, pass defense is awful.
Yeah, my key for the Bucks in this one is let's control script, let's run the football. We sang the praises of Jesse Minter and that run defense. Most light boxes in football, and they're incredible against the run. Yeah, over the last 5 weeks, they're fifth worst in success rate against the run. Right, they've remained a light box team, and it turns out like you can kind of hold the water at the dam for a long time, but it is very, very difficult to do in the NFL. I think you're seeing teams start to find success in terms of who they want to run the football to, taking advantage of some of the aggressiveness off of the edge, trying to get to the outside of the boundary a little bit. They've got some not super great tacklers in the secondary, safety and nickel position that you can take advantage of behind the line of scrimmage. And the Bucks this year against light boxes, 5.3 yards per carry. It's eighth in football. Bucky Irving, little rascal, just breaking tackles left. So nifty. They've got guys who can win in space.
We were talking about this. They buck Liam Cohen. They've kind of, I don't think they have like one of the better run games in the NFL, but a lot of it is just obviously you and I were talking about this, the comp to how awful it was last year. But I do think that they've really landed on something, getting away from that zone running scheme with Bucky Irving in particular. He runs with great vision. He's super elusive.
Mhm.
I could see him causing problems for the Chargers. That said, I'm still going to take LA. I think this Bucks passing attack has been going to play with fire against this Chargers defense, and I like the matchup of Justin Herbert against the Bucks secondary.
Yeah, I'm Chargers in this game as well. Buccaneers need a good script to win it. Chargers can win on a bunch of different scripts, but I would like to see Chargers trail in this game and see Herbert light this passing defense up a little bit.
All right, for the audio audience, I'd take a quick break there for a second because Lenny was scratching at the door. If you'd like to see him, he is now on the YouTube, the video pod. Just in time for Steelers Eagles, which is really the game of the week, I think. Right? I mean, Steelers Eagles. Woof.
Bills Lions. As an Eagles fan, Steelers Eagles,
Yeah.
but Bills Lions is the total is 54 points. I'm excited for that one.
That's true. Okay. Well, you're an Eagles fan. You were also
I'm on the Steelers.
unfortunately, yeah, you're taking you take so
Give me a heart attack there for a second.
No. So there's so much to talk about with this game. I'm going to focus on the Eagles offense against the Steelers defense because I think that's a really like a strength on strength matchup, and I'm really interested in seeing how it plays out. I wrote this, and this isn't even like that X's and O's. I'm just very curious how they handle AJ Brown in this game, Ben. I know that like we can get into the matchup. Well, it matters though for the matchups, right? Because we know that the Steelers love to play man coverage, and we know that like with the Eagles offense is clicking, part of the reason that they do click is that they punish teams who do that, and then they force them to play with two high safeties, and then they can run the ball and all, whatever. There's a fine line between throwing the ball to AJ Brown and allowing him to make contested catches and forcing him the ball. I guess I should give the context here because some people might be mercifully unaware. AJ Brown basically openly shaded Jalen Hurts. He was asked what was wrong with the game, the offense, and he said passing, which is hilarious.
Did you see the Brandon Graham quote?
Yeah, and then Brandon Graham got involved and kind of surprisingly to me defended Jalen Hurts, then walked it back. Nick Sirianni was asked about it, gave a good quote, I thought, tried to calm things down. But we have seen this with AJ Brown in the past. He has, there's been sideline
oh my God.
conflicts. But aren't you interested in seeing how this plays out from a football perspective? Because it matters a great deal in this game.
I know exactly how it's going to play out, which is that AJ Brown will be targeted 4 times in the first 2 drives, and 3 of them will be great, and everything will be fixed immediately, except for then there'll be some key third down in a 1-score game where Jalen 3-step drop back, the most perfect pocket you've ever seen. AJ Brown 1-on-1, first primary read, and Jalen's going to hitch, and then bail out the backside of the pocket, and I'm going to say words I shouldn't say on air in my office watching the game. The AJ Brown frustration is simultaneously so annoying and so justified because firstly I want to grab him and be like, AJ, look, you're like second in the league in yards per route run. Like, you're amazing. You're doing so great, sweetie. Like, I promise you this is an excellent season for you. Yeah. The problem is AJ wants to lead the league in receiving yards. He's like, receiving route one.
He doesn't care about your nerd stats.
Exactly. He wants production.
Sees what Jamar Chase is doing.
And he plays on one of the most run heaviest teams in football. And at times his quarterback just does
Does
not
not throw it.
deliver the pass
And
on time to an open receiver.
this was a
Brandon
major
Graham,
issue
yeah,
in the Panthers game where
yeah,
you're
and
defending.
Brandon
It was
Graham
actually
said
very frustrating.
he said of AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, they used to be friends. Those were his
Yes,
words. They
okay,
right.
yeah.
Which, if you remember, when they traded for AJ, it was like immediate FaceTime with Jalen Hurts. They've been boys for forever. They're from the same recruiting area, yada yada yada, whatever. So like, this is going to get smoothed over because they're just going to throw the ball to AJ Brown. But the underlying issue, which is that the quarterback AJ Brown plays with, does not consistently get the ball to AJ Brown the way a star receiver deserves. That's never going away.
The have you ever seen that meme on the bus meme where it's like one guy smiling and then the other guy sad?
Yeah.
This guy smiling is like Jamar and Chase and Joe Burrow, like being 5-8 and rubbing donuts on each other's faces.
Yeah.
And then the sad guy is AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts on the 11
At 11-2. Like, what's wrong with the offense? It's so
but just to get to the how this plays out on
Mhm.
Sunday, I mean, the Steelers' run defense has been really good this year. Do you think that they'll be able to run the ball well? I mean, because I am skeptical of Hurts, honestly, as a designed runner in this game. Steelers defense, you saw what they did to Lamar Jackson. I also think that the way that they rushed Lamar, you're going to see a similar approach to Jalen Hurts with that sort of delayed blitzer. But Saquon, it seems like, regardless of the competition, has been able to get them to be productive, rather. Do you think that this is going to be a big Saquon game? If you're Kellen Moore, who do you anticipate having success against them?
So it's a single high defense, which usually is AJ Brown, right? And so and with the narratives spiraling in over the course of the week, I think it's going to be an AJ Brown sort of a game. I don't think any game is a not Saquon game, right? I think like, oh, it's not a Saquon game. He's going to have 19 carries for 109 yards. Like that's kind of the version of non Saquon games as they're played. But it is worth noting that the Eagles have played a slate of defenses unbelievably soft to this point in the season. They have had 13 unique opponents in 13 weeks because they haven't played a divisional rematch yet. They have faced two defenses above average by success rate. That is the Browns and the Ravens. They have played two defenses by EPA above average. That's the Packers at 9th and the Saints at 16th. They have played one top 15 defense by EPA in 13 opponents. The Steelers are top 6 in both of these metrics. The Eagles are about to play a defense that can actually like really punch back in both areas against the run in the trenches, that great Steelers defensive line against the Eagles offensive line, and can also Joey Porter Jr., Minka Fitzpatrick, Patrick Queen. They have some coverage bodies in place where they can win some matchups and win some one-on-ones. Like the Steelers defense, they're going to lose theirs. Eagles are going to get a big Saquon run. They're going to get a big AJ Brown completion. I think about the way that Mike Tomlin says they play T. Higgins, right? We kind of hack a shack him. They're going to be physical with AJ Brown. They're going to frustrate him, not let him get catches. Going to be DPI flags instead. But the Steelers will get theirs too. This is a defense like which the Eagles have not played yet this season.
Steelers defense, somewhat surprisingly, 14th in DVOA against the run. I would have thought that's higher, but I guess, again, maybe I'm just over-indexing the Ravens game in my mind and how good they looked in that game, and maybe the competition has benefited from them. But yeah, I mean, in the division, it's funny. Outside,
they got absolutely shredded by the Tyrone Tracy Giants, if memory serves.
No,
and
other
than that, they haven't really had a team go for like a big running game against them, especially like those teams that try to run the football. Steelers are good at taking away what you do best, right? They're a little bit of a chameleon defense. It's not like, oh, we start by taking away the run. It's okay. We start by kind of hassling you where you don't like to be hassled. Yeah, they're going to be really, really good at pressuring Hurts. This is the sort of game where Jalen needs to manage the pocket.
If you're an Eagles fan and you're feeling a little bit apprehensive after listening to that, I suspect you're going to feel better after we talk about the other side of the ball. Because, Ben, do you agree with me that this Eagles defense, we're talking about the Steelers defense being a difficult matchup for Philadelphia. I think this Eagles defense under Vic Fangio, the way they play, the way he game plans, really tough matchup for a Steelers offense missing George Pickens.
Yes. This from Next Gen Stats I thought was really, really cool. Russ has completed 16 of 31 deep passes this season. Half of the completions and more than half of the deep passing yards, 268 of the 513, had been while targeting George Pickens. He is not in this game. So half of Russ's downfield production, which is Russ's primary mode of production. He's playing better underneath, playing better intermediate. I give him credit for all that, but his primary mode of production is still the deep ball. Over half of that. It belongs to George Pickens. George Pickens is not going in this game. Russ this year, plus 22.4% completion percentage over expectation on deep passes. Just like I said with the Colts Broncos, deep pass is very noisy. It is very fragile. Now you're losing your best downfield guy. You don't have good depth. Or you add a Mike Williams kind of for this, but not necessarily proof in the pudding just yet. And you're going up against an Eagles team that is 6th best in completion percentage allowed on deep passes, 4th best in EPA per dropback allowed on deep passes. If you try to live and die by the deep ball with no George Pickens against the secondary, you're probably going to die, even with Russell Wilson throwing the ball.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, to have success in this one, really need to run the ball well, and that
Mhm.
rushing attack with Najee Harris, Jalen Warren has been really inconsistent.
Mhm.
Honestly, like it's very boomer bust. If I were them, I'd want to see more Warren in this one. Warren as a pass catcher as well, working underneath is the way I would do it. But I just like talk about sort of like the noisiness of the deep passing. Like I watching this Eagles defense right now, they're so structurally sound, right? Like I talked about um not the Broncos, the Texans, and how they give up these big explosives and crossers and whatnot.
Mhm.
Like you just don't see that against Philadelphia. And the kind of offense that there's, certain offenses in the NFC that I think would have more success against them. We talked about two offenses, the Bills and the Lions, but this version of the Steelers offense that is so boomer bust, I just feel like it's a challenging one.
Yeah, and if you have again, I think Russ is throwing better short, he's throwing better quick into the down, he's throwing better intermediate middle than we've seen him do in the past few seasons. You still need guys who can actually route it up. Like again, these Eagles defenders are sticky, right? Cooper DeJean in the slot, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming down over tight end, Zach Bond. Like these are good coverage players right now. Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Pat Fryermuth, even you like Fryermuth's playing well this year. These are still not route runners. These are ball winners. You are just attempting a lot of contested catches now that aren't even 30 plus, 40 plus yards down the field. They're 10, 15 plus. You have to string together more and more and more. Oh, and by the way, like Eagles pass rush has woken up this season. Jalen Carter against that Steelers interior, which has been the weaker point of this offensive line.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be an issue for them. It's the Steelers have always been a little bit punching above their weight on offense in the Russ era. Now there's no George. You expect some regression to come naturally, and they're going up against the Eagles defense. I mean, this game is a really good shot of being like 13-9 in the fourth quarter. Like a lot low scoring, some turnover orientation, a lot of field goals, and all of a sudden it's Mike Tomlin magic and they win.
Well,
yeah,
I agree with you. I could see both teams having the Eagles have famously been unbelievably slow starters here, but I literally think if this one is close and it's in the fourth quarter, I feel better about the Eagles because they have Saquon Barkley on their side.
The fourth
right?
quarter
Like
gone.
you gotta keep it close, man.
We have Saquon on our side. They have Mike Tomlin. Like, if there's any man who has more magic in the fourth quarter than Saquon Barkley, I would be worried it's Tomlin.
You can get the Steelers defense, the backers in coverage too. RPOs, Saquon as an outlet. Wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm taking Philly. For me, this is about the Eagles defense. I've been just so unbelievably impressed by them over the last few weeks. I think the Steelers are for real. I think I'm going to do a YouTube video on the Steelers next week, actually. But I think that I just think this Eagles defense is, and I think like to Vic Fangio against Arthur Smith and this Russell Wilson offense, I'm taking Fangio on that.
Yeah, Reed Blankenship practicing this week in the protocol, so expecting to get him back, which safety play was a bit of an issue for them against the Panthers. I think it's Eagles as well. I just think it's a low-scoring game. I think it's an ugly game. But yeah, I think the Steelers are catching bad health at the bad time. And also, I brought up the Ravens look ahead. Steelers-Ravens next week is as big of a game as it gets, and this Eagles team is pretty tough. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Steelers are a little flat and then come out next week a little bit more heat.
Sunday Night Football is Packers-Seahawks. It's another good one. Packers are pretty much locked in for the playoffs, but seeding is up in the air. Seahawks, it's a little bit like if they can pull this one off, there's a chance that they can make Week 18, depending on what happens Thursday night as well. So, point is, it would be good for the Seahawks if they win this, but if they don't, it'll probably just come down to Week 18. So, this is in Seattle.
Packers are 3-point favorites on the road.
I don't like that.
I don't know. I don't think so.
So, okay, I'll go first. My question for Seattle. There's a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if this run defense is for real. So going into last 4 weeks, they have been 7th in success rate on the ground, facing the Cardinals twice, Niners, Rams. Leading up to that, they were 27th. They were awful.
Yeah.
Lots of reasons for that. The biggest being they completely remade their linebacker group. Ernest Jones has
Ernest.
been
Ernest.
a revelation for this defense. Mike McDonald got his guy, right? And then because they've actually been able to stop teams on the ground, they've been able to get after it with the pass rush. I think if they can somewhat limit this Packers running attack, which I've been praising so much, I love what they're doing in the run game. I love Josh Jacobs. Then I think this pass rush, which is not just effective, but tricky, can cause some problems for Jordan Love, who
Yeah.
has been much less consistent this year against pressure.
I my key is for the Packers, and it's the exact same thing in the opposite direction, right? My highlighted line is protect Jordan Love from Mike McDonald. We cannot we can't expose the young man, right, to the machinations of the mastermind Mike McDonald. Seahawks generating an unblocked pressure. This from NGS on 8.1% of dropbacks is the fifth highest in the NFL. Jordan Love has seen 23 unblocked pressures this year and thrown a pick on 3 of them. And right, and when you can get pressure on Love fast,
he's only seen 23 unblocked pressures.
Yeah, and that's pretty standard over league wide.
For some reason, I thought it was. Well, I guess he was injured and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Anyways.
The thing with Love when he gets pressured, right? If you look at just all pressure dropbacks, he's actually pretty good at like avoiding sacks. He does a nice job scrambling back there, getting rid of the football.
Yeah, because he'll throw the football while he's falling backwards.
Yes. If you look at total pass EPA generated, this is not including scrambles and sacks. This is when you attempt to pass. If you look at pass EPA when you're pressured, Jordan Love is 4th lowest in the league, negative 26.7 total EPA. When Jordan Love gets heat, he says, oh, he's got a little Anthony Richardson, talking about that with the Broncos. A little bit, oh, well, like, that means Christian Watson's one-on-one. Here we go. And just, you are not going to connect on enough of those snaps throwing to this group of receivers against this group of coverage guys to I think, beat the Seahawks. There's a chance you go hot, right? There's a chance you got a big Romeo Doubs catch and Jaden Reed, big catch and run. You kind of get one of those fireworks Green Bay games that we all love. But more likely is that there's enough hits on the quarterback, enough pressures, you generate some picks, some turnovers. The Seahawks defense does a really nice job catching the football, something that a Mike McDonald defense has been good at since time with Baltimore. They don't knock passes down, they receive them, which is a game-flipping play. And so we want to protect Jordan Love from Mike McDonald. We don't want to get into these simulated pressure opportunities, these unblocked pressure moments, even letting, kind of Boye Mafe and Derek Hall and Leonard Williams, pin their ears back and go. We need to be able to win on early downs. And that's where, this entire game boils down to, all right, we know this Packers run offense, is for real. We are pretty sure the Seahawks run defense is for real. Litmus test opportunity. Very, very, very big game for the front seven.
Feels like one where if like Josh Jacobs comes out of this with a success rate of over 45%, it probably means the Packers won.
Mm-hmm.
If it's, right? Like I really think it's, but honestly, you could kind of make the same point for the other side of the ball, because last week for the first time all season, the Seahawks actually ran the ball efficiently against Arizona, mostly in the first half. But you and I were talking about this. They just spammed GT counter all game long.
Mm-hmm. It's also easier to run efficiently when you have Zach Charbonnet, who obeys the rules, as opposed to Kenneth Walker, who I saw some sunlight over there. Let's go.
It's true. But also the offensive line for the first time was actually winning their blocks, which was a joy to see. The Packers run defense is not bad. They're somewhat improved. I still think they can be got on the ground. I also think this Packers pass rush is not good. That's the biggest concern I have about this football team is the lack of a pass rush. And we know that if Geno Smith is protected, he can actually throw the ball. The other thing I would point to from the Cardinals game, Ben, that I think is notable in this one, Geno was really checking it down over the middle of the field a lot. And he was just saying, all right, because he has felt so pressured to get big plays with the run game being as bad as it was. And that's led to not just interceptions, but 3 and outs. You really saw he looked more comfortable against Arizona and played calm and was willing to take those 6, 7, 8-yard gains. That's exactly where the Packers are vulnerable, that shallow to intermediate part of the field. So if they can replicate the formula that we saw last week, I actually think Seattle wins.
Yeah, the biggest thing that has elevated Seattle for me, besides I think the defense has to be the thing, but as a longtime Seattle Seahawks enjoyer and believer this season, but now taking them like a lot more seriously as an NFC contender, the thing that has really elevated them is the fact that JSN has earned Geno's trust, right? Weeks 1 through 7, man, like JSN was on a historically low ADOT, low productivity pace in terms of slot receivers. Those were supposed to be just like Eddie steady, chain moving guys, and just the connection was not there. And then when DK went down, Gino was kind of forced me like, all right, you and JSN are going to figure this out about Adonai Mitchell and Anthony Richardson. Like, all right, we're going to sit down, go to some couples therapy. We're going to figure this thing out. They had those productive games without DK, and then DK comes back and still a lot of targets to JSN downfield. Since week 8, JSN's caught 16 of 22 targets, 10 plus yards down the field. Before that, it was 3 of 14. They are finally, he's playing like a first round receiver, and that has added depth to the Seahawks passing game. We're now right. Gino will just throw it to JSN because he's JSN and he's there and he's probably going to catch it and move the sticks. That trust now, that belief has been a big missing piece.
Yeah, and I think it just really makes life difficult for defenses in a way that you didn't really see last year, even in games where JSN has moments last season where you're like, that's why he's a first round pick, and you see why they people thought of this Seattle triplets as being such an issue. But for the most part, you could tell that defenses, if they had a cornerback one who could take out DK Metcalf. I'm thinking about San Francisco being a great example, by the way, through some of their matchups where they were putting Ward on Metcalf and saying, if we feel like we can win this matchup, we're good. Now you're not good. Mm-hmm. You're really not, right? Especially the way they moved. Like you said, the expansion of JSN's route tree. I mean, his numbers are over the course of the season, but really over the second part of the season are up there with just about every receiver in the NFL.
He has 767 receiving yards from the slot right now, which is like more than 200 more than the next closest guy. And of the last 6 weeks, he's on like Cooper Kupp pace, like Triple Crown season Cooper Kupp pace. It has been unbelievably productive for a slot receiver.
And again, to go back to this game, really like JSN working that middle of the field. That is where you want to attack this Packers defense. You saw that with the Lions most recently. Obviously, that's what they love to do as well. Geno Smith, also very good quarterback, throwing over the middle of the field. I was going to take the Packers, but as I've been talking about the Seahawks offense, you've got me suddenly like leaning Seattle. Is that, I don't know. I do think Green Bay is going to be able to run the ball on them, though.
Let me listen. I think that they will get theirs. I think that it's Green Bay is a little bit like the Philadelphia Eagles running game. It's tough to stop it. Yeah. I will. If I'm going to win a rundown rep against the Packers, I'm going to win it against Josh Myers, who's a center, or Sean Ryan, who's the right guard. That's the weak point in the offensive line. Leonard Williams. It has been so unbelievably, preposterously disruptive in the last month of football. I think Seattle gets enough stops in the running game. You're not going to stop it always, but enough stops to then elicit those certain longs, get into those blitz packages, get a key turnover to get off the field. I, with my whole heart, believe the Seahawks are going to win this game. They're going to play the Vikings next week in Seattle. They're going to win that game. And then we're going to start talking about Seattle actually making an NFC playoff push. I believe it completely.
I am so in on Mike McDonald right now. It's not even funny, dude.
He's good. He's got it.
Freaking, you guys know that I really wanted them to hire him. And obviously they went through like a low period this season. And I think he's going to keep adding to this. But the way these safeties are playing under him, Kayvon Wallace came back, by the way, Witherspoon. But Julian Love, how good has Julian Love been in this defense? Such a good player.
Tariq Woolen's woken up. Like I was very critical of Tariq Woolen in October because the effort was low. The effort has been very high last 2 months of football. Mike McDonald gets kids' heads screwed on straight. He gets his guys playing. It is so cool to see. Chenna's coming back?
Chenna's back. Chenna's back.
Right. Healthy. Returning.
Yeah. All right. Falcons Raiders is just you. Monday Night Football. Woof woof. AOC, Aiden O'Connell battling a bone bruise. If he doesn't play, it'll be a Desmond Ridder revenge game against Kirk Cousins. Ben, I assume your take is just going to be this is the Kirk Cousins is fixed game, even though he's not actually fixed.
I was so close. I was so ready for Revenge of the Riddler. I was so pumped. Oh, I couldn't wait. It's probably going to be AOC. Yeah, the book is for Kirk Cousins and for the Falcons. You avoid turnovers, right? The last 4 games, they are 0-4. Kirk Cousins has 0 passing touchdowns to 8 passing interceptions. He has fumbled the ball 4 times, not lost to 1, so it could be even worse. But their success rate over that time is 13th in the league on offense. They are moving the ball, turning it over, right? The passing game is working structurally, and then they have these terrible moments against pressure and they give the ball away.
What do you think is up with the turnovers? I want to just because they've been so weird and ugly. Like the one where I talked about this, I think on my show, I don't remember. It was the first one in the game against Minnesota. It was under center play action, which they hate running with him because he is obviously physically uncomfortable doing it. He turns around, he's staring at Josh Metellus. He throws the ball anyways, right to him. And I'm watching that and I'm thinking, because at first my thought was like, he's so uncomfortable when he turns his back around. It's like messing with his process. But there's a mental facet to that, which is, dude, you've been in this league a really long time. You know not to throw that football. Why is he throwing that football?
Yeah. So I whenever I talk about high interception quarterbacks, I always default to Adam Harstad, who's right. I want to say for football guys, who has a wonderful analogy for quarterbacking, where he talks about the three-legged stool of quarterbacking. And the three legs are yards per attempt, like air yards, right? Kind of like pushing the ball. It's sacks and it's interceptions. And to play quarterback in the NFL, you have to be willing to take one of the three things, right? Okay, I'm going to be a high sack guy because when there's pressure, I'm just going to eat sacks. Okay, I'm going to be a low low aggressiveness guy because I'm going to avoid sacks, avoid turnovers, avoid the negative plays. Or in the case of Kirk Cousins, I know I can't avoid sacks because I can't freaking move. All right, I can't do it. I know I have to shoot and aggressively and push and attack in this passing game because we can't open receivers up for free right now because we can't run play action where we don't have these elite separation route running guys. So I have to attack windows. I have to give contested opportunities. So what am I going to be? What's the cost of business? The cost of being a high interception player. Like Kirk walks into every game just believing that the only way this works is if he shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots. And and so many of these good Drake London plays and these great Darnell Mooney catches are the result of Kirk testing coverage. Yeah. Where if
including one word, it was a simultaneous possession, right? And
right, literally
Drake London, yeah.
And so then you get a moment where Josh Metellus does a great job filling the route behind him, or a moment where Tarheeb Still does a nice job cutting underneath the route. All of a sudden, that's a pick, and it looks so ugly. But because Kirk doesn't have great drive velocity right now, can't really extend plays. Like he has to attempt these throws. So you get these high ADOT games, these high contested catch rates, but you also get these high interception moments. Now you're playing the Raiders. Just freaking don't do that. Like you calm down, run the football, out execute. But, I don't know where his mental confidence is going to be. Hopefully he bounces back and he's able to continue shooting and then just have a better day by default because they're a lot more talented than this team.
Yeah, you do worry a little bit. No Falcons, Falcons bad pass rush. Aiden O'Connell with time.
I'm sorry, Falcons back-to-back games of 4+ sacks. How dare you? Right. Arnold Ebiketie back. Let's go.
The first quarter of the Falcons defense against the Vikings offense was preposterous. The way they were getting after Sam Darnold.
Football Twitter is so funny because actual things are happening, like fantasy points are being scored, touchdowns, quarterbacks, and all of us are like, wait, the Falcons got another sack? Everybody was just watching that.
I know. But the other thing about Kirk though is if the Falcons defense has actually turned a corner, we'll see. Mm-hmm. Then having a quarterback who gives the football away is even it's just you brought in Kirk Cousins specifically to not be the quarterback who gives the football away. The fact that he's doing that is really, really it could end up costing them the playoffs. So I'm still taking the Falcons in this one. Raiders quarterback situation is obviously bad, and defense I think they can move the ball on, but that team, man.
I'll pick the Falcons to win for sure. But there are worlds where the Falcons pass rush is fake, and I get, again, my favorite sort of game, an Aiden O'Connell with time in the pocket game, and we get 13 Brock Bowers targets, we get 9 Jacoby Myers targets, we score some points. This can get weird. It absolutely
Aiden O'Connell is like the Ben Solak of quarterbacks in that he's 19, but has the demeanor and style of a 55-year-old man.
I tell you, there's not a lot of people who I could grow the facial hair out, but I could grow an Aiden O'Connell mustache, no problem.
Don't do it. That's not
my bag.
Absolutely not. If you want to keep coming on the video version of this podcast. All right, one more game. The other Monday night game, Bears Vikings. This one, I probably should have done both of us, but I'm just gonna do me for this one. I give you Falcons Raiders, which is kind of mean, but Bears Vikings. I mean, God. I guess the only thing I want to talk about in this one, Ben, is whether the Caleb Williams we saw last week is going to be the one we see this week. Because the last time these teams just played, and the last time they played, I was so encouraged by Caleb's performance against the Minnesota Vikings, who are a very tricky offense. I thought he was fantastic. And then a loss. Then I watched the Niners game, and it was a tough watch. With the whole thing was bad, but the first half of Caleb was some of his worst play of the season, I thought. Just the same issues we've seen all year. So people ask me all the time, what do you think of Caleb's year? Is he a bust, whatever? And it's just been so uneven, perhaps more so than any of the rookie quarterbacks. Bo Nix has been a tale of the beginning, and then since then he's been directionally, it's arrow pointing up. Drake May, I think, in terrible circumstances, has come in and obviously outperformed them, and you feel really good about him. Jane Daniels had a bit of a tough spot, but as a Commanders fan, you're over the moon with his skill set, his ability to just do everything at a pretty high level. Caleb Williams is just such a harder eval for me personally. I just have a really hard time even describing how I feel about him right now.
Yeah, it'd be so nice in the NFL if The quarterback is good when the pass protection is good. And then when the pass protection gets a little bit worse, the quarterback is proportionately worse. And it just continues on like a nice linear relationship all the way up and down. With the Bears, it's very clearly been all right. Like there's some bar here of quarterback pressure. And if we're above it, then like there's stuff that can work. And we've got the screen game that's going, and Caleb has these nice throws down the field. And if we're below it, everything completely and totally implodes, right? It is not a linear relationship at all. If they are if they're suffering from pressure on late downs, they're not running the ball well, like they have no
Rarely
port in
run
the
the ball.
storm, right? There's just nothing for them at this time. The thing that they were doing nicely against the Vikings, you go back and you watch that game, it's worth remembering, like it was 24-10 entering the fourth quarter. They kind of like heroically yanked their way into overtime.
Sure.
It wasn't that close of a game. It ended up just being that way late. But what they were doing well is they were using DJ Moore in the screen game. Right.
They screamed the hell out of
Yes.
them in that game.
And-
That's been a thing with the Vikings, by the way. There have been a lot of teams who have been able to do, if
Right.
you're wondering how to play this defense.
Yeah, the Brian Flores, like a blitz heavy defense like this structurally wants to let you throw the ball to the flat, and then they think they can rally up and tackle, but you can kind of beat them to the punch by throwing screens, getting blockers out there, and then taking advantage of that space. And so they did a very nice job, screening them up, right? And the running game was pretty much non-existent, but they were using the quick passing game. That Caleb had a time to throw at 2.4 seconds in this game. It's one of his lowest over the course of the season. Using the screen game to replace that running game and staying ahead of the sticks. And then eventually Caleb got to that kind of tempoed place that I forget what the word is when you're in a rhythm. He got to that rhythm there in the second half that we've seen him do over the course of the season, and he started to hit some of the downfield shots. You'd like to be able to recover that approach, and I think you can. I also think like it's pretty clear the Browns coaching staff is stretched pretty thin, right?
The Bears, yeah.
The Bears, excuse me. Yeah.
I was also thinking like, man, I'd really like what I saw from Thomas Brown those first couple of weeks. I almost wish like he had just stayed as offensive coordinator. It feels like maybe
Me and Dominique talked about this. Yeah, promote.
Did you guys? Yeah, like why are you? It's kind of like how they promoted Ulbrich with the Jets to head coach, and there's just definitely something to that. Like maybe you don't want to make your best coach the interim coach or whatever. Yeah, I mean, there seems to be like a very, I could probably look this up, but like when Caleb Williams has a time to throw of under 2.7, he has good games. So, and that's very important against this Vikings defense. I would love like for him to, for the Bears, for him to finish this season again, stacking those good, competent performances. Ones that don't have Rome Odunze's dad tweeting about how Rome Odunze would have 1,500 yards in a different offense or whatever.
Wide receivers, man. Get them off the internet.
About the Bears God, like I alluded to the Niners game because I went back and watched that one pretty closely because I wanted to watch the Niners offense. The Bears defense, the first few weeks were a total mirage. I really feel comfortable saying that. Like the pass rush that they were getting, it was never legit. It was always going to be an issue. I always had questions about this defensive line. You've seen a decline in play. Obviously, they've had injuries on the back end, and the linebacker play has gone down pretty significantly this year. So as much as we talk about the Bears offense and Caleb Williams, this defense is really, the run defense is a lot worse. And I think against a Minnesota offense, that's when Sam Darnold's not pressured, is absolutely cooking. I just don't think this is going to go well for them. So I'm taking Minnesota.
I think Minnesota too. They did a nice job playing Justin Jefferson in the first matchup, right? He was 2 for 27. Jalen Johnson was on him for a large part of that game. Even Terrell Smith, when they got him in the slot on those matchups, was successful. And so I think Eberflus no longer there. Whoops. I think the Bears defense can do a good job game plan wise, trying to take J. Jeff out of the game. But then we've seen what Jordan Addison can do with opportunity. We see what TJ Hawkinson can do. Vikings, man, I was pretty big. I'm not here. This team is punching above their weight. I'm question marks about Sam to start the season. Late, I'm starting to buy what this team is selling a little bit.
The triplets are so good. Like at some point, if you were to stack triplets in the NFL, meaning the 3 skill players that they lead with, Addison, Hawkinson, Jefferson, you just said it. Addison has really proven to me that if you double Jefferson, he will come up with the football. His play strength has been so impressive to me as a little guy this year. He's made some really difficult catches, Ben, and part of the reason why they've been absolutely unbelievable this year against man coverage in particular is his play.
And one of the cool things about Addison is when you double the primary guy, you get beat by the second guy. Sometimes it's a 16-yard backside dig and it's come back. Addison, it's like a 55-yard touchdown. The guy can't stop fighting the freaking end zone. So they're probably a little bit going to regress to the mean on that. But the fact they have a guy who's so good at the downfield production means that even when you double Jefferson, they're still getting on top of you. It's
and then
nuts.
If you're a defense and you probably put a roof on them and you get scared, there's TJ Hawkinson.
And Aaron Jones out of the backfield. They got horses. I'm
buying
what the Vikings are selling.
I'm feeling what I've seen from this offense so far. All right, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week to recap these Monday night games and discuss other things with Dominique Foxworth. You guys can check this out on youtube.com/Mina Kimes, where if you haven't looked or subscribed, I also have a video sort of giving behind the scenes of what it was like to call a game with virtual reality that we worked really hard on. It was a lot of fun, and talked a little bit about my Simpsons prep. So go check that out.
You bought your book to study Simpson lines, Simpson puns.
I literally am Lisa Simpson. Otherwise, thank you to the great Ben Solak. You guys can check out his work on ESPN.com. He's got columns every week. And Kirk Cousins' column aged really well, I think, by the way. Yeah. I feel like you wrote that and then he played the Bucs or something.
And he had 500 yards against the Bucs. I'm going to burn my fingerprints off.
Right, but like that Bucs defense is awful.
Yeah.
You can also follow him on all your socials. Benjamin Solak, I assume, on all of them. Otherwise, thank you also to the fine folks at Omaha Productions, Kirsten Sebecki, Anthony Jimenez, Owen Saylor, Jack Foster, Tucker Tashjian, and that's it for this week.